Joining us now to discuss their outlook for 2021 and beyond, Greylock partner and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman. He'll join us in a moment, as well as Greylock general partner Sarah Guo. Good morning. And Sarah, let me start with you. Now, as we get closer to reopening, everyone's talking about this idea of a hybrid workplace, but you're seeing pretty different stances even within that. You've got a company like Dropbox, which is going remote first, giving up a lot of office space. And you've got Google, which is looking for more office space and not committing to this sort of permanent remote work idea. So across what we might see emerge, what are some of the technologies and common threads that you think will cut across?
Yeah, I'm very heartened to see, actually, it's not just Dropbox and Google, as you mentioned, it's forward, right? Everybody's thinking about what the new mode of work is. And I don't think anybody knows the answer, but we know it's going to be a lot of hybrid and a lot more support for remote. So to your question about the technologies or the innovation people are looking for, we're really going from emergency mode to like a building mode now, right? And something we're really focused on is we think the softer stuff is going to be the hardest. Building culture, career progression, communication. And so that's the area we're investing in most. For example, we're investors in a company called Remotion, which is like a virtual office that sits on your desktop all the time to try to keep you connected with your teammates.
Right. And Reid, you know, we've seen some companies, the big one is Zoom, right? They were positioned perfectly for remote work. But as we started to go towards an opening, they sort of tweaked or introduced new products that could work in that hybrid world, Zoom Phones, Zoom Rooms. What are some other companies that you think have done a good job, not just resting on their laurels in the pandemic because they had a business model that fit, but thinking ahead, looking to that reopening, hybrid products?
Well, I think just about everyone actually who are the good innovators are thinking about that. There's obviously a lot of meeting products. You just mentioned Zoom. There's also Teams and others. Some of the ones that I think we've also been investors in Greylock are things like Coda and other areas which are kind of invent your own workflow, make your own kind of a work process that conditions, and that flexibly plays between remote, in office, and also hybrid. And what I'm finding a lot of people are thinking about is, okay, how does that hybrid work where you have some people in the office and some people not in the office? And how do you make it not like second-class citizens? And I think there's been a lot of already working in innovation to make that happen so that, like, in the Hamiltonian metaphor, everyone is actually in the room where it happens.
Yeah, I like that, Reid. And Sarah, talk to us about artificial intelligence, and not just companies that are AI companies, but how startups, maybe even those in your portfolio, how they are using and need to use AI to automate their processes and maybe distinguish themselves from both their startup competition and the established companies that they're trying to disrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we're seeing is firms that take a combination of AI and services, right? And services have been kind of a dirty word in technology investing today because it implies kind of lower gross margin. But we've seen that isn't true in a new breed of companies. So an example from our portfolio, John, is a company called Abnormal Security. Right. And so this is an AI first company that becomes more important during COVID because people are getting, targeted by lots of hackers with manipulative, phishing emails. And so they use a combination of AI and expert sort of security researchers to deliver their really high quality service. And so we're going to see, I think, more mixes of people who are AI companies who are AI first, but use service on the back end to make sure that they're hitting like a really high quality level.
Okay, so that's AI investment in a way. Now, Reid, talk more broadly about maybe capital investment and the big investments that are going to allow certain companies to accelerate out of this period. And I asked that in the context of just having had Pat Gelsinger on with us yesterday talking about this $20 billion fab bet, which is making a lot of people scratch their heads. I mean, is that the sort of bet that companies should be making, risky perhaps, but leaning into what they view as their core identity and core competencies?
I think absolutely. I mean, one of the things we've actually seen is the so-called Moore's Law, which of course is never a law, has actually in fact ended relative to desktops and servers. But the result of that has been building massive amounts of very large, energy-efficient, climate-good server farms for doing AI to continue the digitization, the progress. And those things will require, for example, special chips, special fabs. Part of the AI technology race for building the new applications of the future are going to require these kind of massive servers and specialized chips as ways of doing it. And you can see line of sight to that transformation, whether it ranges from, medical and precision medicine and everything else to education, to entertainment. The AI transformation across industries is going to be there and is going to require a massive amount of compute. And therefore, you have a higher degree of certainty with that level of capital investment.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.